Because my grandfather bought a house that at the time was basically useless because it was constructed for railroad workers, and there were basically 10 small studio apartments. Not even studio apartments. They were like half the size of a studio apartment in New York, if you can believe that. 10 of
Hmm.
those with a shared bathroom in the middle.
Dang.
Basically 10 dorm rooms with a shower in the middle, or with a bathroom in the middle. And so my grandfather bought this house. I think my dad was 5 or 6 when he bought it. And my uncle, who was 3 years younger than my dad, told us that when he was in third grade, he brought several friends home from school to show them their new shower. That was how big of a deal it was for them to have a shower. And my grandfather basically tore the inside of that house apart on his own and put it back together again. And it's a dear, sweet little house that I have some of my fondest childhood memories in. Like, my grandfather did open concept with that house before it was a thing.
Hmm.
He made it an open concept house in like the 70s,
As a money
which is
saving
about
thing?
20 to 30 years before like the uber rich people were like, we just need open concept. I need to be able to see my television from my kitchen. That. So my grandfather had already done that, and like I said, for my uncle, it was a big deal when they got a shower. And they otherwise grew up very, very poor. My grandfather worked multiple jobs, and that led my dad. There is a point to this. It is coming back around to your original question.
I
That
believe you.
What that did was growing up poor teaches you the value of money, but it also it can do something else to you as well. Because I remember when I was a kid frequently asking for something and being told, no, you don't need that, which I think almost everybody remembers being told when you're a kid. And either that or I'm not spending that X amount of money on whatever that is. Uh, but it's because my father grew up poor, and he knows the value of a dollar, and he knows the value of saving money. And now he's retired. He could retire. I think he was 53 when he retired, and he's doing fine
Hmm.
because he knows the value of a dollar, and he only uses basically what he needs to live on, and all extra goes elsewhere. So that was basically the environment that I was raised in. So technologically, the only game system I ever had in my house when I was a child was a Nintendo GameCube that my brother and I got as a combo gift for Christmas one year. I think it was just a couple of years before the Wii came out, so it wasn't necessarily a new thing. But that was like a huge thing. That was like the only game. That was the only game console that we ever had. For perspective, the PS4 was out when I graduated high school. The Nintendo Switch came out second year of college, I think.
That sounds close enough.
That sounds right. I don't remember the exact details, but I was in college when the Nintendo Switch came out. And so, like, growing up, I was watching my friends have the Wii and the Wii U, and I had other friends that started with a PlayStation and had upgraded all the way to PlayStation 4 by the time I was going to college. And, the Xbox upgrades I was watching other people get, and my father wouldn't let me have any of it. And that's not a bad thing. But I was kind of technologically behind, which means that it also means that the first smartphone I ever owned, I was 18 before I owned one. And it was basically, and my brother was the same way. He's 4 years older than me, and he didn't own a smartphone until I think his sophomore year of college.
Hmm. I was
And
pretty similar. Yeah.
because they make things easier, that was the argument I was able to use for my parents. Even then, when I went and got one, it was literally the cheapest one we could find. I think it was $100.
I think I may have
So it
gotten.
was like on the lower end of the Galaxy. So my first phone. Oh gosh, what was it? Which, by the way, this is my second smartphone. It was Samsung Galaxy A something, and this is the A51, I think.
Okay.
Which is basically when Samsung acknowledges, yeah, we don't need to make smartphones super fancy, so here's a less fancy model. That's the whole Galaxy A line. It's not as fancy, maybe not as fast, maybe not as streamlined, maybe it doesn't have as much storage space, not as good of a camera, whatever it is. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's all stuff I can live with. This is my second smartphone ever in my entire life. And my fifth cell phone. Technically. So the first one was a track phone. It's basically a brick for those that know what track phone is. It was a prepaid. Now, I don't even know if they do that anymore. Having prepaid minutes. Now, if there happens to be anybody under the age of 30 watching this, 30's too kind. If there happens to be anybody under the age of 25 watching this, a prepaid phone means that you go in every month and you pay for a certain number of minutes for every month, and that's how many minutes you have on your phone. You go to the counter, you pay for the minutes, they give you a little card that has numbers on it, you put those numbers in your phone, and then you have that number of minutes. And once you're out, it's gone. No more.
A number of people have forgotten about that unless they remember old commercials when they were a kid for, regarding minutes, or you don't need minutes. You would have to remember that.
And that counts that's your conversation minutes, and that's your text messages also counted for that. And phone companies used to charge, even on phone plans, they used to charge by the minute. Or for a certain number of minutes. You'd get a limit, and you go over that, and you have to pay more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, basically, everybody offers only unlimited plans. So there is kind of no point as to specifying that they're unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, kind of beside the point. My whole reason for saying this is that I didn't grow up with a constant influx of information. I only absorbed the information that I wanted to absorb when I wanted to absorb it. I didn't grow up with constant noise everywhere. Like, we didn't have cable. We had a set of antenna sitting on top of the TV, which was a tube television. The first television in our house that I remember was from the 80s, and the one that's there now, that my parents currently have, is something that we had gotten from one of my dad's co-workers that he was getting rid of. That was from like the early 2000s, and it was already at least 10 years old when we got it. At the time, when it first came out, it would have been super fancy because it has both a VCR and a DVD player. Or maybe it just has the VCR attached, like as part of the TV itself, attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember, but yeah, we didn't have lots of streaming services when all those first started up. I remember when Hulu was free and had ads. I remember that. I remember when Yahoo had a streaming service. Almost nobody cares about anymore. But it was free with ads. And that was basically how we watched television, and we watched it in the evenings. Usually after we prayed our rosary. Anything else, if I ever wanted to watch anything, I had to go and get a DVD or a VCR.
And so because there was a poverty of information in your life, you actually focused more on what mattered.
I wouldn't say it was a poverty of information, it was just...
Let's say a poverty of information compared to how many people would grow up.
I wouldn't call it poverty because it didn't cause me to suffer. But it was more of a... and other than it instead of being like a Niagara Falls of information, it was a little garden fountain.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't get a whole lot at one time. I didn't get a whole lot at one time. But over time, it did fill me up.
Mm-hmm.